You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis Wright.
Car crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with The Attorneys of Hollis Wright.
Hello and welcome to The Attorneys. So what happens when an illness or an injury keeps you from working, or how disability insurance benefits may help protect your income? We'll talk about that and much more. I'm Art Franklin, your host, and we're going to get right into all of that. But first, we want to remind you that an attorney for Hollis Wright is standing by right now. All you have to do is call 1-844-LAW-TALK. That's 1-844-LAW-TALK. It's a free, confidential call. You can get that handle for you right now. Someone's going to be standing by throughout the show. John Spade from Hollis Wright is here. John, good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Art. Thanks for having me. We've got an interesting show tonight. Yes. Something that kind of runs up a little bit against what we do at Hollis Wright with personal injury claims. But today we're going to be talking about disability insurance claims, disability benefits. We've got an expert in the field. Clay Williams is here with us tonight, and we're going to walk through the process, kind of peel back the layers, if we will, on what disability claims are and how you can walk through everything. Clay, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I appreciate it. Before we jump into everything, kind of just introduce yourself to the viewers and kind of tell a little bit about what you do, where you're working, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm Clay Williams, attorney with the Martin Law Group. Specialize in employee benefits generally. Of course, one of the main segments of benefits that we see are disability benefits. This is an area that I was drawn into probably about 15 to 20 years ago and saw just a real need, and also just developed a real passion for helping people, because I came out of a practice where I did a lot of business litigation, but here with disability work, it was something that I felt was almost as much of a ministry as it was anything else, because this is where when someone has a disability claim, they are at a very desperate point, and being able to help them through that journey and get a good outcome for them is something that I've just strongly believed in, and it's been very rewarding to do. Well,
that's great. And it sounds like you've been doing this for a very long time and helping people really at their lowest point navigate through this very difficult and tumultuous time. Let's just kind of jump in to, we talked a little bit about disability insurance and when will somebody need to make a disability claim? Kind of just generally 30,000-foot view, kind of what is disability insurance, and then let's talk about the actual types of disability insurance.
So disability insurance comes into play when you lose your livelihood, your ability to pursue your livelihood, and you can no longer work, or at least in a way that earns a meaningful income. Many times when this situation comes up for people, it's if they maybe have an illness that takes away certain functional abilities to be able to do whatever it is they have to do. If it's heavy labor, maybe they can't do a lot of lifting. If it's something like being an attorney or an accountant, and maybe they have a head injury and they can't, work through or think through things very well, and have, foggy thinking, that's where it would come into play there as well. So disability insurance can come up when someone also has an injury. Frequently it's seen as a companion to any workers' compensation issue where someone has an on-the-job injury, or of course in any personal injury situation it frequently comes up there as well. So it's one of those safety nets that's there for people.
And we deal with kind of at times short-term, long-term disability stemming from a personal injury. So like it can be a physical injury, and also can have these insurance disability claims from a mental injury as well. I think you talked about the accountants and attorneys. Let's talk about what are the different types of insurance benefit plans that are out there.
Sure. So there are three classifications that I would describe. One is individual coverages, where someone has a policy that maybe they got on their own and they paid for out of their own pocket. Maybe they saw their local insurance agent or a broker. Another is group insurance, or actually I would say more employee provided benefits, but that includes group insurance. But you can also have like a pension disability. So those folks that still have pensions, there can be a disability benefit available through that as well. And then there's what I call ancillary benefits, which are disability benefits that don't necessarily replace income, but they provide an additional benefit, such as being able to continue a life insurance policy with your employer. When you're disabled, it's called a premium waiver. And that premium waiver, if you're disabled, can allow you to continue holding on to those coverages even when you're not working there anymore.
Okay. And I've heard that the Social Security disability, is that another kind of type of benefits?
That's also available, and of course that's more broadly available to most people who've been working for some time. But when you have these benefits all together, that's what provides this total safety net for persons who've lost their ability to earn a living.
And in your kind of daily practice, what do you kind of deal with the most from those different types of plans?
So what we see the most are the group insurance claims, because those are the ones that tend to get into a ditch a little bit quicker for various reasons. But we also see a lot of individual claims. Social Security is a little bit more on a rail, where many people can apply for that on their own, through Social Security website. And of course, if they get denied, then they would need a Social Security disability attorney. But what we handle mostly are the group policies and the individual coverages.
Well, let's talk about the group policies and individual coverages. You've got somebody that has suffered some sort of an injury, illness. How do they go about trying to qualify to receive the benefits under one of those plans?
So to get a disability benefit, you have to show at some point to the satisfaction of the insurance company that you have functional limitations that are preventing you from performing the substantial or material duties of your occupation. And so to show that, what insurance companies are going to want to do is there'll be an investigation that'll start with sending forms or providing forms to you. And now for someone who is maybe initiating a claim, if it's through private coverage or individual coverage, maybe they'd reach out to the insurance company directly, or maybe to their agent who will help them out. If it's a group plan or employer-provided plan, it can depend. They can reach out to the insurance company. Sometimes their employer prefers that they do that. Sometimes the employer will handle that for them, maybe their HR department, or if they have an employee benefits person who's just over that, who will ensure that they get the forms that they need. Forms would generally include something that's like a questionnaire for the claimant, asking what's wrong with them, who are their doctors, what are their complaints, describe what their job is. And then there usually is also a form that the claimant needs to take to their physician to have them complete as well, where the doctor presumably backs them up on their claim.
And Clay, as you start talking about the different types of insurance, and you mentioned about human resources, a lot of people don't know what type of disability insurance they have. So how can they find out? Where would they get that information from?
Sure. So that's something that we actually see a lot, where no one is really aware of what benefits they have, and they may discover or back into the fact that they might have some other benefits, or maybe they've seen deductions taken from their paycheck. We all notice that, and things that are leaking out of it.
Always track the money, yeah.
They always do. So if you want to find out what exact coverages or benefits that you have, if you send a request to your employer, maybe talk to someone in HR, but you can also, if you're having trouble figuring it out, if you send them a request in writing for all of your plan documents, group policies, group coverages, they're actually required to provide that to you. But as a practical matter, they're always happy to provide that to you because that's why they have them for you.
Right.
That's an employee benefit. So it's just about communicating to them what you want, what you need, and then sometimes what they'll provide will be presumably is the whole suite of benefits that you have. And that's where you know like what insurance companies you're dealing with and what coverages you have and what the terms are.
Okay.
All right. As you can tell, we've got a lot to talk about when we start talking about disability insurance. Clay Dennis is here with us, and we're going to talk more about, Clay Williams is here with us, and we're going to talk more about that. But I want to remind you, follow Hollis Wright on all the social media platforms, on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. You get a wealth of information there, and you find out what's happening with us throughout the week. So we're going to take a break. Stick around. The attorneys will be right back after this.
Here's some good information from our firm to you. Hollis Wright recently launched the Law Talk podcast. With podcasts becoming so popular, this will be a simple way to provide our loyal viewers with more opportunities to access information about important legal topics and to learn more about our firm and how we can help you if the need ever arises. There are many ways to access the Law Talk podcast. You can simply scan the QR code on your screen. Also, episodes are always available on the Hollis Wright YouTube channel, as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you consume your podcasts. Just search up Hollis Wright in the Law Talk podcast. Don't wait, take advantage and listen today. Thanks for watching The Attorneys, and we know you'll enjoy the Law Talk podcast.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show in 2011, my goal was to do what our firm does best. Help people answer questions related to real-world legal issues they have in their lives in a way that's not intimidating to talk with a lawyer. If the issue is important to you, it's equally important to us, and we're ready to talk with you at no cost.
Yeah, oftentimes people are confronting various legal issues in their lives that really run the gamut of a lot of different legal practice areas, such as bankruptcy, criminal law, civil law, such as personal injury, divorces, domestic relations. And to be able to have a show once a week that covers those practice areas and answers people's questions in those areas, that's really the main objective of the show.
We use the resources of the many lawyers at our law firm to create a plan that has a lasting impact for each person that calls or texts. And we also give back to the community at the same time. We are here to serve you, the viewer, each week on The Attorneys.
Addiction kills hope.
But at Bradford, it all changes here.
Experience the difference
that proven treatment can make.
Find recovery. Find community.
at Bradford.
You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis Wright.
Welcome back. You are watching The Attorneys, and we're talking about disability. I also want to remind you that right now you can still get in contact with an attorney at Hollis Wright. All you have to do is dial 1-844-LAW-TALK. That's 1-844-LAW-TALK for a free and confidential call with an attorney at Hollis Wright. An attorney from Hollis Wright is here right now, of course, John, as we're talking about disability.
Yeah, and we've got Clay Williams here, and we've kind of dove into, you know, what are the different types of insurance disability, and, you know, how you go about getting your plan documents. Let's kind of shift the focus now. You contacted HR, or you looked at your personal plan. You kind of see what your coverages are. All right, you've been injured. You think that you might not be able to go back to work, and you want to apply for those benefits. We know what they are. How does somebody go about applying? What kind of documentation do they need? You know, how would you kind of guide somebody through that process?
Right. So as I said before, so once you let them know that you have a claim, they'll provide you with some forms to complete that ask a number of questions that asking you to outline what's wrong with you and your physicians, and you complete all of that. And really, you want to be inclusive with that, because a disability is not just about maybe the one doctor or the one issue that you think you have. We all are a sum of our ailments, and maybe a bad back isn't what's keeping you from working, but that bad back may be what's causing you to have impairments in your gait, which is why you can't work or be on your feet for a long period of time. And so when you have all of these doctors and all of their records come together, that's what helps with the claims. Many times we see people that they just only maybe disclose one or two doctors and not their whole suite of everybody that's ever laid hands on them. And that can be a problem because it gives an incomplete picture of really what they have.
So better to cast a wide net.
It is, because the insurance company wants, and you want to give the insurance company also a complete picture of what your whole person is like. So There will also be forms that the insurance company will provide you that are meant to be taken to your doctor to get the doctors to sign off on what's wrong with you. Having all of those materials in a timely way is important, because there also are can be time limits to when you have to get that in, depending on what the rules of the policy or group plan may be.
Well, you speak about time. How much time does it take to start getting those benefits to start rolling into you once you file?
And this is a frequent question as well, because many people, I think, sometimes assume that as soon as they make the claim, they're going to have benefits within the week. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and there's practical concerns for that. Once you get the paperwork in, the insurance company or the plan administrator, whoever's looking at the claim, is going to have to send it through a review process, because that's what they will all do, just like with any insurance. And that may go through internal nurses, doctors, or maybe even third-party doctors, and this takes time. And sometimes, once they send to that review, they get questions back saying, well, there's some records over here that we don't have, we need to go get those. And so what we typically will see is maybe on the most optimistic side of it, benefits may be payable within 30 days, but that's if it just sails right through. But usually it takes a little bit longer than that. In an individual or private policy context, that's where you're paying for the policy on your own. There's not really anything that's requiring the insurance company to decide quickly. You hope they will, but sometimes that can take many months. On the group coverage side, there are actually certain federal rules that the insurance company has to comply with. But even then, typically you're looking at somewhere between 45 to 90 days. And depending on how things break, it can take a little bit longer than that. So it's just important to be prepared.
And that kind of echoes your point that you said at the beginning. It's important to try to be a little bit more inclusive when you're providing, documents and doctors and creating that whole picture on the front end. Because if the insurance company doesn't have that whole picture, they're going to be supplementing, and then you're kind of, at least, you can be chasing your tail a little bit to making sure that you've got all the providers, all the documents, everything that can drag out the benefits process before you start getting funded.
That's exactly right, because every time they have to go get new records, it's almost like the clock just got turned back again. That's right.
Yeah, I know. In my cases, getting medical records from these providers is probably the most frustrating part. It takes time. They've got thousands of requests that they're processing, and that's one thing that always can kind of slow things down a little bit. Tell me this. So we've talked about, okay, how do I apply? And this is more, I think, in the context of, you're injured, and this is not with an attorney assistance at this point. You're kind of going through the process. You've maybe consulted with HR. You're trying to get everything together. When is it important to get a lawyer involved? When do you need to, reach out to a lawyer? Is there a hard and fast deadline or time, or is it kind of a case-by-case basis? What would you recommend in that regard?
So I would say it's both a case-by-case basis, and then there's a certain time where you absolutely need to have one.
Okay.
So talking about the first one, you're going through the initial claims process. A lot of times that can happen pretty smoothly, but I would say when it becomes important to consult a lawyer, where you'd want to at least consider it, is when you start feeling like something is off. And it can be anything from how maybe the insurance company is dealing with you, maybe they're saying certain things that don't add up, or the benefit administrator, or maybe you're starting to feel like, well, maybe they're working against me a little bit, maybe they're withholding things. Sometimes it can be unreasonably short deadlines where they're saying we need this information within 7 days, yet you get that letter saying that on day 5. Or a common situation is where, and this may be an innocent mistake with the insurance company, but it happens, where a doctor or someone will send in information. They know they sent in the information, but the insurance company is saying they don't have it.
You got the fax confirmation that it was sent over, and somehow
that's right.
It went into the cloud and nobody knows
right.
where it is.
Went into the ether,
That's
and then
right.
no one can track it again. And so I think when that starts happening, there are strategies that a lawyer can use that we're used to using that shed light on this process and actually can shine a light on these situations and make them go smoother, because we're set up to cut through this fog.
Right.
Whereas individuals, this is the first time they've ever dealt with this, they're not, and they get frustrated and they can throw their hands up.
So fair to say, trust your gut. If something doesn't smell right, it might not be right, and that's when you need to start kind of pumping the brakes a little bit and say, hey, I need to get somebody that is, knows this whole process inside and out to take a look at it.
That's exactly right. And I would say, then there's the time when I think it's imperative that you get an attorney involved, and that's when you have a claim denial, or if you've been on claim, there's a termination.
Let's pick up after the break and talk about that, and then I do want to touch on, before we get out of here, talking about the appeals process as well, and then the litigation side of things as well.
This whole idea of your case being reviewed.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, good stuff. Thank you for that. We're going to go ahead and take a break here, but also want to let you know there's a QR code on your screen. All you have to do is scan that QR code. It's fast, it's quick, it's easy to do, and it will get you in contact with a lawyer at Hollis Wright. They're standing by to take your call too at 1-844-LAW-TALK. Go ahead and do it. It's free, it's confidential. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Thank you for watching The Attorneys each Sunday night, where we come to your living room to provide free legal advice in a confidential, off-air setting. Unfortunately, with the number of calls, texts, and emails that come in during the show, we can't always get to everything. But know this, Hollis Wright is open all week long. You call us at 844-LAW-TALK and we're going to answer your question for free. Thank you for watching The Attorneys, and we look forward to seeing you and talking to you soon.
If this place could talk, it wouldn't. It would sing and celebrate all of our stories of addiction recovery, victory, and community. This is Bradford Health Services. It all changes here.
You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis Wright.
Welcome back. You are watching The Attorneys, and we're talking about disability insurance. And as we were heading to break, John, we were talking about the difficult part of it when you have to appeal because it didn't go through.
That's right. Yeah, I want to pick back up on that, and we talked about a case-by-case basis. Sometimes you need to bring in a lawyer, bring in an attorney to help. Is there any set and fast deadlines or times that you have to comply with from a legal standpoint on when you absolutely need to get an attorney involved?
Yes. So, not necessarily a deadline to get the attorney involved, but I would say once you get that letter that says the claim is denied or terminated, anything that's adverse, I would call it like an adverse benefit determination is a technical term for it.
So not just we need more documentation, but we've made our decision, right, and we're not providing benefits.
Or maybe even a decision that says you're not entitled to the full benefit, you're entitled to half the benefit. Something that is less than what you were asking for, and they give you something like that. Once you have that, that's when you're in an appeal posture, and it's really important, really critical. One of those things I can't stress enough, that an attorney needs to be involved at that point. Frequently I encounter situations where someone has tried to handle the appeal on their own as if they were dealing with a dispute over a homeowner's insurance issue or something like that. But in group benefit cases, this is a totally different thing. In these kinds of cases, and the reason it's called an appeal and not a request for consideration is because there is an official proceeding of sorts, even though you don't feel like you're going to court or anything like that. In a way, you are. Reason being is because in the appeal process, that functionally is what a court will see as your trial on it. And all a court will ever then do is come back and look at how that appeal was actually conducted and what decision was made in that appeal and whether the context of that appeal led to a fair result. They won't let you redo it in court. So you've got to make your case in the appeal.
So the appeal process is not being handled in front of a federal judge or a circuit court judge. It's being handled outside that context, but you're more or less developing the evidence and the record that's then going to be, if the appeal is not successful, I assume that it's going to be handled with, I would think, a federal judge. We got ERISA that comes into play here. So when do you have to kind of get that appeal process started after you get that adverse letter? We're not providing any benefits or not providing the full benefits. You know, take me just briefly through that kind of appeal process, what all needs to be done, and are there any strict deadlines that you have to comply with?
Sure, yes, there absolutely are strict deadlines that you have to comply with when appeal. And group benefits, typically that's 180 days from the date that you receive the decision letter. Now, sometimes there are some companies that we've seen, well, they'll say it's 180 days from the date of the letter, which as a practical matter, that's what we kind of always sort of calendar, because you can't be wrong with that. But many times they may have sent that letter on, say, October 25th, but you didn't get it till November 14th, right? So, but the way that the law goes and the way the regulations go is from the date of receipt. But you have 180 days to lodge the appeal. Now, to lodge the appeal, it has to be in writing. It has to be, it has to comply with specific directions that were in the denial letter or in the plan, and it has to be clear that it's an appeal and you're not just asking them to reconsider. Asking them to reconsider is different and is seen differently by courts than an appeal. Now, when you present the appeal, you don't just give notice and say, I appeal, and then let it go. That's when you have to present all of your evidence that rebuts all of the different points that the insurance company or a plan administrator made when they denied or gave whatever adverse benefit determination. That's your chance. You've got to do it then.
It just seems like it's an ongoing process. You wait about 45 days maybe just to get it started, and then you're either denied or you're under review. This is a lengthy process sometimes.
It can be. So you get the appeal in, then there's another decision process. So going to your point, Art, about how long this can take. Then they again have 45 days initially to make a decision, maybe up to 90. So when you're looking at carrying this through the end, I mean, there's a process to follow. And the important thing is to act quickly, as soon as you can. Once you know you have to appeal, get an attorney involved and get that attorney working on it as soon as possible and not wait till the last minute.
That puts you in a bind if that happens. We don't want to do that.
Puts everybody in a bind. That's right.
And then so after the appeal process, then if you get an adverse, then you're now going to federal court, and that's where the lawsuit starts, and then that process works its way out. Is that fair?
That's right. The lawsuit then looks at the fairness of how the appeal was handled, and it's only examining what happened during the appeal.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today and teaching us about these disability insurance plans. We appreciate it. We look forward, to having lots of viewers call in and to the show tonight.
Absolutely. Clay, thank you. John Spade. And on behalf of everyone at Hollis Wright, we thank you for joining us here on The Attorneys. Try to make sure we give you the information you need to help you in your daily life. Go ahead, make an appointment to join us again next week, same place, same time, for another edition of The Attorneys. We'll do it again. We'll see you there.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.